What's up, YouTube? My name is Big Boy Snatch on TV, aka we kind of snatch one because I got plenty going around. This is my AEW Forbidden Door review on highlights. So if you guys are new to the channel, make sure you guys please watch the video from all the way from the beginning all the way towards the end. Hit that thumbs up, subscribe to my channel for more rest of the content I do on the channel. Follow my social media down below in the description, and go and check out my WWE SmackDown review on highlights. And that's all I gotta say. Without further ado, let's get started. Now, AEW Forbidden Door was a very good show for what it was, because the match card looks great. So it says the AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling Forbidden Door 0 Hour pre-show opens up with Renee Paquette welcoming us. She then introduced the rest of the pre-show panel, Jeff Jarrett, RJ City, and Madison Rain, and they run down the card for today's pay-per-view. The panel then says Bryan Danielson was supposed to join the crew. We then get some discussions from the panel on today's pay-per-view. We then get a video package looking at the AEW Women's World Championship match and some discussions from the panel. The panel then continues to run down the card, and we get a couple of video package before they send things down to ringside, where Excalibur and Iron Riccaboni welcomes us to the show, and we get the first match of the 0 Hour pre-show. CRU then makes their way down to the ring for the first match of the pre-show, and Don Callis' family follows El Desperado, Paragon, and Yumura then make their way down to the ring next. So we get an 8-man tag team match. Paragon, Kyle Riley, and Roderick Strong, El Desperado, and Yumura versus CRU, Action, Andrade, and Leo Rush, and Don Callis' family, Hikaru, and the walk-in weapon, Josh Alexander. And this 8-man tag team match right here, this was a okay 8-man tag team match. The match starts out with Yumura and Alexander sizing each other up. Desperado and Hikaru then both tag in. Trading holds, shove, and counters until Hikaru starts to take control. He then pulls Desperado to the corner and tags Josh Alexander back in. But Rush quickly tags himself in instead. Action Andrade then distracts Desperado, and they start double teaming the New Japan Pro Wrestling star. Desperado then regains composure and tags Kyle Riley in, but they sustained double team proved too much for him. He is then able to tag Roger Strong in, and they are able to briefly regain the advantage. Things break down as all 8 men start fighting. After the melee, Action, Andrade, and Rush are back in the ring, but Roger Strong and Rush as the legal man. Roger Strong then attempts to tag up, but Rush keeps him locked up in the center before hitting him with a suplex in a pin attempt. Roger Strong is then able to hit a backbreaker on Rush, and he struggles to his feet to tag in Kyle Riley, who stops Rush from tagging out. Action Andrade breaks up Kyle Riley's submission attempt on Rush. He then and the heels begin double teaming the Paragon member again. Kyle Riley then holds off Roger Strong, but eventually has to tag in Imura. The heels then tag Josh Alexander, and he begins exchanging strikes with Imura. Yumura then dropkicks Josh Alexander and gets fired up, but Josh Alexander regains the advantage and tags in Hikaru, and then begins double teaming Imura and Rush, and Action Andrade clears the rest of the opposition. The heels then takes turns landing offense on Imura and goes for a pin attempt by Desperado breaks it up. The two teams then run through their offense until only Action Andrade and Rush are left standing. Imura then gets back up and clears and clears an action adrenaline and starts wrestling Rush. And Raw then gets the win with a deadbolt. The winner of the 8-man tag team match, Paragon, Kyle Riley, and Roger Strong, and El Desperado, and Ua and Raw. Fun 8-man tag team match. After the match, Kyle Riley points at Imra and signs in his praise. Archer and Romero then joins the heels in attacking the babyface. Tomohiro Ishii then makes his way down to the ring. Tomohiro Ishii and Archer then trade elbow strikes. Tomohiro Ishii then gets the better of the exchange and hits a brainbuster. Kyle Riley is happy, but Roger Stone pulls him away from Tomohiro Ishii. Ricochet and the Gates of Unagi then make their way down to the ring for the next match of the pre-show, and Michael OKU and Jesby follows. So we get the trios match: Jesby, the Jet, Kevin Knight, and Speedball Mike Bailey, and Michael OKU versus Gates of Unagi, Bishop, Khan, and Toa Luna and Ricochet. In this match right here, this was this six-man tag this trios match, six-man tag team match. This was a squash 6-man tag team match. The match starts off with Ricochet and OKU, with OKU taking an intimidating edge before GOA gets involved. The heels advantage doesn't last long as Jesper neutralized GOA and OKU can focus on Ricochet. OKU then takes a nasty fall to the outside after being shoved in midair. Luna Ricochet then pins OKU into the ring and attempts a pinfall, but OKU kicks out. GOA then works on OKU before Ricochet taps back in. OKU then starts to gain steam and goes for a tag, but Ricochet stops him and tags out. OKU then tags in Knight, who starts taking out the opposition. Bailey then tags in, and all three faces start working on Khan before Ricochet breaks up a pin. Everyone then gets level with a series of offense until OKU and Ricochet are left to tag in. OKU then avoids a kick and knocks Ricochet to the ground on the outside. He then pumps up the crowd just onto Ricochet and avoids a tackle from Luna. OKU then hits Ricochet with a fall splash in the ring. When in the ring, Ricochet kicks out of the pin attempt. GOA then gets in the ring, but Jesby stops them from taking out OKU. Ricochet then hits Kevin Knight with a knee, but Mike Bailey avoids being thrown down. Mike Bailey then takes out GOA on the outside, and Kevin Knight clotheslines Ricochet with OKU hitting a springboard moonsault. Ricochet then kicks out, but OKU puts him in a half crab, and GOA takes down Jesby. Referee Rick Knox then gets distracted by GOA. Ricochet then guards OKU's eyes, and the heels regain the advantage, with Ricochet picking up the win after the hitter of his finish. The winner of the trios match, Gates of Unagi, Bishop, Kong, and Tonga Luna and Ricochet. This was a squash 6-man tag team match. We then head to the back where Lexi Nair is interviewing Don Callis. She asking Don Callis if he is worried about all the titles the family has on the line tonight. Don Callis says Heavy is the head that wears the crown, and he has taken out the most expensive insurance policies to make sure they retain their gold. Don Callis then calls Prince Nana a physiologist and questions Swerve Strickland, taking advice from him. While Okada has someone like him, Don Callis then says Kyle Fletcher will crush his old pal Hiromu Takahashi on their way to victory. Let's move on. Megan Bain then makes her way down to the ring for the next match of the pre-show, and Triangle of Madness follows Willow Nightingale, Queen Amnata, Haley Cameron, and Chris Statlander they make their way down to the ring. Next, 8-woman tag team match: Triangle of Madness, Julia Hart, Sky Blue, and the Toxic Spider, the Killer, and the Megas, Megan Bain versus Harley Cameron, Chris Statlander, Queen Amnata, and the Collaboration Willow Nightingale. And this 8-women tag match, this was a decent 8-women tag team match. The match starts off with all 8-women brawl, but the face take control and get their opponents separated into each each corner. Will Nightingale and the Collar then begin wrestling, and the Collar stops Nightingale's momentum before attacking and Julia Hart. Julia Hart then ends up in the ring with Amnata, who gets in some offense before tagging Chris Statlander. Julia Hart then gets away from Chris Statlander and tags in Sky Blue, and then starts working on Chris Statlander together with Julia Hart tagging it back in. They then clotheslines Chris Statlander into the outside and clear the faces from the ring apron. Megan Bain then and the Collar then executes some tandem offense onto their opposites, to their opponents on the side before the Collar tags in and throws Chris Statlander into the corner. Chris Statlander then reverses another whip into the corner. The Collar gets Chris Statlander into the submission in the corner before tagging in Julia Hart. Chris Statlander then gets thrown into a kick and gets a pin and goes for a pin attempt. But Chris Statlander kicks out. Sky Blue then tags in. Chris Statlander is able to tag Haley Cameron, and Bane makes her way into the match. Cameron is then able to get in advantage over Megan Bain with some quick offense. Megan Bain then regains her footing and takes control of Harley Cameron, but she is able to tag Amnata in. She and Megan Bain then exchange offense, and Amnata gets Megan Bain down, allowing her to tag in Willow Nightingale. Megan Bain then tags Sky Blue in, and Sky Blue takes Willow Nightingale by surprise. Willow Nightingale then reverses and goes for a pin attempt, but it is broken up. Amnata and the Collar then starts duking it out in the center of the ring, and Amnata goes down. The Collar then dives for the corner onto Amnata and Chris Statlander, leaving everyone down on the ground except for the Collar. She and Amnata then fight their way up the ramp and away from the ring. Megan Bain and Harley Cameron are in the ring as the legal wrestlers, and Megan Bain goes for the Liger Bomb against Haley Cameron until Harley Cameron removes her face mask and gains the advantage. They then both end up down, and Harley Cameron goes for the tag until Sky Blue and Julia Hart pull Willow Nightingale off the apron. Willow Nightingale then knocks them both down and gets back into position, but Megan Bain tags in and kicks her down. Harley Cameron tries to roll Megan Bain up, but Megan Bain kicks out. Megan Bain then hits a Liger Bomb on Harley Cameron for the win. The winners of the 8-woman tag match: Triangle of Madness, Julia Hart, Sky Blue, and the Toxic Spider, the Collar, and the Megasis, Megan Bain. This was a decent 8-woman tag match. We then head to the back where Lexis Nair is waiting for the Young Bucks, who walk in with one-day talent name tags. Then berates a production worker, demanding their introduction to be changed for tonight, saying they played their old song and ordered him to find the most dangerous weapon on the street of London and put them in a bag under the ring in the main event, and then says if it doesn't, he saw what happened to Justin Roberts last week. Alright. Dr. Martha Hart, OJ Hart, and AEW President Tony Khan then makes their way out. Tony Khan then boasts today's being the largest crowd in a pro wrestling show in the history of the O2 Arena in London, England. Tony Khan then turns the microphone over to Martha, who talks about it being great to be at Forbidden Door. She then talks about backing Hangman Page in tonight's main event against MJF with the AEW World Championship on the line. She then asks the crowd who they're going for and hands the mic back to Tony Khan. The AEW president then says a few more quick words and then wraps up moments later. Alright, so we did get the entrance for the final match of the pre-show. AEW Trios Championship match, the Ops, the wrestler Kajori Shibata, Powerhouse Hobbs, and Samoa Joe versus the Bullet Club, War Dogs, Clark Connors, Drilla Monley, and Robbie X. And this match right here, this was a solid tag team match, solid trios match. The match starts off with Shibata and Connors, and both men trade strikes. Shibata then sends Connors to the outside. He then sends Connor into the barricade on the outside. He gestures to the corner before sending Connors back into the ring. Connors then hits Shibata with a shoulder tackle and takes control with Monley tagging in. Shibata then sends him to the corner and tags Samoa Joe in. They then exchange elbows, but Monley is able to get Samoa Joe down with a drop kick. X then tags in and attempts to get a better of Samoa Joe and strikes, but it doesn't work, and Samoa Joe casually avoids a dive from X. Samoa Joe then tags Shibata in, and Shibata brutalizes X in the corner. He then gets for the pin attempt, but X kicks out, and Shibata puts X in a sleeper hold. Shibata then bounces off the ropes, but O'Connor's grabs his leg and pulls him outside as Monley pulls Samoa Joe out of the apron. Powerhouse Hobbs then gets involved on the outside and he takes Connors down. Shibata then makes his way back into the ring, but X has momentum. He then hits a senton on Shibata, but the New Japan Pro Wrestling star kicks out and X tags him Molongni. He and Shibata then exchange shots and Molongni gets control. Connors then tags in and tries to pin Shibata, but Shibata kicks out and grabs Connors into chopping him repeatedly. Shibata then gets fired up, but Connors takes a cheap shot. Shibata then escapes and tags in Powerhouse Hobbs for the first time. Powerhouse Hobbs then takes down the other team by himself, hitting heavy hits on Maloney in the corner before hitting him with a lariat. Connors then hits Hobbs with a chop block out of nowhere, and X clears Samoa Joe and Shibata from the apron. The War Dogs then beats down Powerhouse Hobbs and goes for a pin, but Powerhouse Hobbs kicks out. Maloney then attempts to hit Hobbs with the Drilla Killer, but Hobbs counters and tags in. Samoa Joe and Mahoney tags in X. Samoa Joe then hits a power slam on X, but Connors breaks up the pin attempt. Connors and Maloney then starts beating down Samoa Joe as X climbs to the top rope. Shibata then knocks him down and prevents Dedu from getting involved. This then allows Powerhouse Hobbs to regain the advantage over Maloney as Samoa Joe hits a muscle buster on X for the win. The winners and still your AEW Trio Champion, the Ops. The wrestlers Kajiri, Shibata, Powerhouse Hobbs, and Samoa Joe. And this match was okay for what it was. Yeah. Alright, we then get some final discussions from the panel and announced from the commentary in the AEW X and New Japan Pro Wrestling Forbidden Door 0 hours pre-show comes to a close. Alright, so we get AEW X New Japan Pro Wrestling Forbidden Door opens up with a video package highlights today's pay-per-view, and the narrator says the professional wrestling world is together like never before in history. Escobar and Tony Schiavone and Bryan Danielson then welcomes us to the show As ring announcer Justin Morris conducts in introductions for their match of the pay-per-view, Adam Copeland then makes his way down to the ring for the first match, and Christian Cage follows. Killswitch and Kip Sabian then make their way down to the ring next. So we get a tag team match. The Rated R Superstar, Adam Copeland, and Christian Cage, and Killswitch versus Kip Sabian. This was a fun tag team match for what it was. And that's all I gotta say. This was a fun tag team match for what it was. Alright, the match starts off with Copeland and Kip Sabian, and both men lock up before Copeland draws Sabian to the mat. Sabian is then back to his feet, and he sends Copeland to the corner. Since Chris Sabian follows then close. What was I? It says Chris Sabian to the mat. Chris Sabian is then back to on his feet and drops back to his feet and sends Copeland to the corner with some strikes before Copeland slides out of the ring. That part I was at. Kip Sabian then follows close behind, eventually taking a clothesline before Copeland sends him back in the ring. A tag is then made to Christian Cage, and they double team Kip Sabian before Christian Cage stays on the attack. Killswitch then tags in and goes after Christian Cage, but Christian Cage immediately tags in Adam Copeland. Instead, Adam Copeland and Killswitch then trade strikes until Adam Copeland gets taken to the canvas with a thirst kick. And he then sends Copeland to the corner, but Copeland fights back to send Killswitch out for a baseball slide into the barricade. He then fends off Kip Sabian, but Mother Wayne distracts him long enough for Kip Sabian to get the drop on Copeland. Killswitch then continues to attack, and Sabian tags after Copeland is brought back into the ring. Kip Sabian then sends Adam Copeland to the corner and catches him on the top rope before climbing the turnbuckle for a missile dropkick that gets a 2 count. A tag is then made to Killswitch as Kip Sabian looks for a cannonball on Killswitch. Offers an unwanted assist by throwing him into Copeland. This then gives Killswitch a 2 count. As Mother Wayne tries to tell Kip Sabian it's okay, Copeland then fights to his feet, struggling to get a tag from Christian Cage, but no to a ball, as Killswitch drops him to the mat once more. Kip Sabian then yells at Killswitch to make the tag to Killswitch, obliges and smacking him clean off the apron. He then sends Kip Sabian into the ring as Mother Wayne knocks Christian Cage off the apron. Kip Sabian then tags Copeland up on the turnbuckle, but he's hosted up by Killswitch, setting him up on his shoulders. Copeland then jumps off for a doomsday device on Kip Sabian in the process. Adam Copeland then finally managed to tag in Christian Cage, and Killswitch tags himself in. He then lays in some heavy offense onto Christian Cage, fights back, sending him into the corner and then setting him up on the top rope. Chris Sabian then tries to intervene but gets propped up on the ropes as well for a boot to the back, and Copeland gives an assist to Christian Cage, and he gets a drop on Killswitch. He then sends Killswitch back into the ring in a powerbomb from Copeland and allows Christian Cage to get the 2 count. Killswitch then has both men by the throat, and when he's back on his feet, but Kip Sabian tags himself in, and he distracts the referee as Adam Copeland and Christian Cage hit a DDT on Killswitch. This distraction then allows Kip Sabian to get a cheap shot for a 2 count. With Christian Cage fighting back for a spear that gets blocked by Kip Sabian, Copeland then slides in for an assistant, and he hits a spear on Kip Sabian that allows Christian Cage to get the win. Alright, the winners of the tag team match, the Rated R Superstar, Adam Copeland and Christian Cage. This was a fun tag team match. After the match, Christian Cage offers Copeland a handshake, which Copeland accepts. Copeland then goes for a hug, but Christian Cage pushes him away and shakes his hand. Alright. We then get a video package looking at the TNT title match. Hiromu Takahashi then makes his way down to the ring for the next match of the pay-per-view, and Kyle Fletcher follows. So we get an AEW TNT Championship match. Don Callis family, the photo star Kyle Fletcher versus Hiromu Takahashi. This match right here, this was a very good match. The match starts off with both men circling the mat and Kyle Fletcher getting a shot on Takahashi. Takahashi then hits the ropes, but gets sent to the mat by Kyle Fletcher. Takahashi then tries to fight back for her Hurricanrana, but settles for a crossbody off the ropes. Instead, Kyle Fletcher then heads to the corner and cuts Takahashi off with a boot to the face. He then stays on the attack by sending Takahashi to the corner for some strikes until Takahashi dodges a chop for a few shots of his own. Kyle Fletcher then hits a back elbow strike on Takahashi and he gets a 2 count. Kyle Fletcher then follows it up for a kick to the back of Takahashi. Kyle Fletcher then hits Takahashi with a body slam and gets another 2 count. Kyle Fletcher then continues laying into Takahashi before clinching in a chin lock, but Takahashi fights back to his feet and he hits the ropes for a step up Hurricanrana. The fight then heads to the ropes, where Takahashi sends Kyle Fletcher over the top rope and to the floor. Takahashi then sends Kyle Fletcher back into the ring and gets a 2 count of his own. Takahashi then sends Kyle Fletcher to the ropes, but is met with a fury of offense from Kyle Fletcher, leading to a protostar driver that gets Kyle Fletcher a near fall. Kyle Fletcher then hits a scoop slam, then goes up top, but he is intercepted by Takahashi. Takahashi then hits the ropes, only to be hit with a avalanche body driver for a near fall from Kyle Fletcher. Kyle Fletcher then follows it up with a tiger bomb and gets a near fall. Takahashi then laughs at Kyle Fletcher as he gets to his feet, which rallies up Kyle Fletcher, and he delivers some more shots on Takahashi. Takahashi then absorbs a series of forearm shots, and Kyle Fletcher drops him to the mat, but that only gets a 1 count. Takahashi then heads to the apron as Kyle Fletcher looks for a sheer drop brainbuster, but this gets countered as Takahashi drops Kyle Fletcher on a hard set part of the ring. Kyle Fletcher then gets up, but it's just enough for Takahashi to hit a sunset powerbomb to the floor. Takahashi then follows it up with a clothesline back in the ring for a 2 count. Takahashi is then countered, but Takahashi sends Kyle Fletcher down for another near fall. Takahashi then stays on top of Kyle Fletcher, but only gets another 2 count. Kyle Fletcher then goes for a tombstone piledriver, but that gets countered by Takahashi. Kyle Fletcher then hits a jumping tombstone piledriver for a near fall. Takahashi is in the corner as Kyle Fletcher hits a couple of hard strikes, but a sheer drop brainbuster gets a counter for a 2 count. Kyle Fletcher then hits a sheer drop brainbuster on Takahashi for the win. The winner and still your AEW TNT champion Don Callis family, the protostar Kyle Fletcher. This was a good match for what it was. After the match, Don Callis enters the ring to celebrate with Kyle Fletcher. We then get a video package looking at AEW TBS Championship 4-way match. Alex Windsor then makes her way down to the ring for the next match of the pay-per-view, and Bozilla Persephone and Mercedes Moné follows. Alright, so we get the AEW TBS Championship 4-way match. The CEO Mercedes Moné versus Alex Windsor versus Persephone versus Brozilla. And this four-way match right here, this was a fun four-way match right here. The match starts off with Mercedes Moné getting sent out of the ring as the other three women go after each other until Brazil lays out Windsor and Persona and to Persephone. Mercedes Moné then returns to look for a roll up on Brazola, but to no avail. As Mercedes Moné is sent to the corner, Brazola then lifts Mercedes Moné onto her shoulders before sends Mercedes Moné to the outside, where Mercedes Moné lands on Winslow and Persephone. 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 Persephone then gets back in the ring, but it's dropped by Brozilla. Windsor then hops on her back as Mercedes Moné slides in, looking for a sneak attack, only to be knocked away by Brozilla. Brozilla then goes for a trio, goes on a tear until Mercedes Moné evades an attack, forcing her to the outside. Mercedes Moné then tries her hand on Windsor and Persephone, but this leads to Persephone getting a one count over Mercedes Moné before Windsor pulls her away. Brazola then returns to the ring and drops both women to the mat before Mercedes Moné tries to go for a sleeper hold, only to be sent into the turnbuckle by Brozilla. Mercedes Moné then tries to gets the drop on Brazola, but gets caught in midair as Windsor and Persephone slides out of the ring to pull Brazola down. This then leads to Mercedes Moné taking a powerbomb before Brazola deals with the other two outside. They then take her down before going back in the ring, and chaos ensues with each of the three scoring a near fall in the process. This then all comes to a stop when Brozilla breaks up the pin to grab Persephone for a bear hug before dropping her to the mat. Brozilla then turns her focus on Mercedes Moné in the corner. She then goes after Persephone next, but Windsor stops it with a lariat and puts her down briefly. Mercedes Moné then takes advantage of the opening but only gets a near fall. Windsor and Mercedes Moné then go at it in the corner until Windsor is put in a trio roll and Persephone and Brozilla get in the mix. Windsor then hits all three women with a German suplex from the tree of woe. Windsor then hits Brozilla with a DDT on the ropes, but Persephone gets a roll up for a near fall. Mercedes Moné then sneaks in and hits both women with a statement maker. Windsor then breaks free as Persephone gets Mercedes Moné on her shoulders for a 2 count. Windsor then gets the upper hand as she locks in a Scorpion Death Lock on Mercedes Moné and Persephone. Brozilla then steps on the hands of Mercedes Moné and Persephone to stop them from tapping out before attacking Windsor to break the hold. Brozilla then sends Windsor to the corner where Persephone hits her with a spear before getting dropped by Brozilla. Brozilla then goes up top for a moonsault. Brozilla then goes for a cover, but Mercedes Moné breaks it up at 2. Brozilla then stares down Mercedes Moné was setting up for a Tiger Bomb, but Mercedes Moné counters into a reverse run-up for a 2 count. Windsor then comes in for a Fisherman's Buster on Mercedes Moné, but Mercedes Moné kicks out at 2 as well. Windsor then goes for a German suplex on Brozilla, but Brozilla counters with one of her own. She then heads to the corner for a running lariat on Windsor before sending her to the corner for some more damage. Brozilla then goes Persona then goes Persona Percy per Persephone to come in, and Persephone obliged with a drop on Brozilla to the mat. Windsor then drops her for a 2 count. Windsor then churches in a Scorpion Deathlock until Mercedes Moné breaks up. Persona then looks for a moneymaker, on Moné. On Mercedes Moné, but Mercedes Moné counters for the win. The winner of the four-way match and still your AEW TBS champion, the CEO, Mercedes Moné. We then get a video package looking at the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship match. We then get adventures of Nigel McGuinness meeting with the legendary Johnny Saint for a game of chess to help prepare his mind for the match. Nigel McGuinness then gets a checkmate on Johnny Saint, who tells him to do it again at Forbidden Door. But I'm so sick and tired of Mercedes Moné having all those belts. That's all I gotta say. That was a good match. That was a good four-way match. That's what I said. Nigel McGuinness then makes his way down to the ring for the next match of the pay-per-view, and Zack Sabre Jr. follows. So we get the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship match, Zack Sabre Jr. versus Nigel McGuinness. And this match right here, this was a fun match for what it was. The match starts off with both men exchanging holds and snap mirrors. Nigel McGuinness then takes Zack Sabre Jr. down with a side headlock for a 1 count before Zack Sabre Jr. breaks free. Zack Sabre Jr. then takes Nigel McGuinness down a couple of times. Nigel McGuinness then breaks free from a wristlock takedown. Zack Sabre Jr. then goes right back on the attack and stays on the wrist of Nigel McGuinness before Nigel McGuinness fights to his feet, only to be taken right back down. Zack Sabre Jr. then attacks the hand and arm of Nigel McGuinness, even as he tried to get back on his feet. Nigel McGuinness is right back on the mat and gets up before moving his fingers to mock Zack Sabre Jr. That gives him the opening he needs to take Zack Sabre Jr. down. He then has both arms trapped as he brings back the applied further pressure, and he gets a 2 count. Zack Sabre Jr. then manages to fight back to his feet, and he kicks Nigel McGuinness on the arm to take him down. Zack Sabre Jr. then goes after the neck for a moment before attacking the arm, and he stomps on it for extra damage. Nigel McGuinness then gets to his feet, and he traps Zack Sabre Jr.'s arm for a ringer DDT. Zack Sabre Jr. then managed to fight back before Nigel McGuinness sends him to the corner. Nigel McGuinness then sends Zack Sabre Jr. to the mat to get a breather in the corner. Zack Sabre Jr. is back on his feet as he goes after Nigel McGuinness in the corner, only to get hit with a combo by Nigel McGuinness. Nigel McGuinness then follows it up with a running uppercut, but Zack Sabre Jr. runs at him, and Zack Sabre Jr. is hit with a slam that gives Nigel McGuinness a 2 count. Nigel McGuinness then continues his attack on Zack Sabre Jr. before Zack Sabre Jr. traps the arm of Nigel McGuinness. Zack Sabre Jr. then changes in an armbar on Nigel McGuinness, and Zack Sabre Jr. also has a toe hold trying to go after the foot. We then see Daniel Garcia trying to push the ropes forward to help Nigel McGuinness, and the referee spots in this and tells Daniel Garcia off for it as Nigel McGuinness gets to his feet once again. This then leads to the exchange of uppercuts between both men. Zack Sabre Jr. is then sent to the ropes, and he gets a near fall. Nigel McGuinness then gets a near fall of his own, and both men go for a lariat, with Nigel McGuinness prevailing from the ropes for a 2 count. Nigel McGuinness then hits a short arm lariat, and he gets another 2 count before Zack Sabre Jr. gets him with a carpet pin for a near fall as well. This then ends with Nigel McGuinness going for a hold on Zack Sabre Jr. Zack Sabre Jr. to counter with a hold of his own, as the referee is forced to deal with Daniel Garcia getting too close to the action. The action then heads to the ropes before Zack Sabre Jr. breaks free and he mounts off with Zack Sabre Jr. Then goes up top, only to get caught with a Tower of London that gets Nigel McGuinness a near fall before Zack Sabre Jr. breaks free. We then get an exchange of pinfalls attempt that ends with Zack Sabre Jr. managing to keep Nigel McGuinness on his shoulders down just long enough to pick up the win. The winner of the match, Zack Sabre Jr. The winner of the match is still your IWGP World Heavyweight Champion, Zack Sabre Jr. This match was fantastic. After the match, Nigel McGuinness rises to his feet and he is somewhat distraught, losing his big title opportunity. He then gets a big ovation from the London crowd, and as he and Zack Sabre Jr. shake hands, with Zack Sabre Jr. showing massive respect, raising Nigel McGuinness' arm before leaving the ring. He then meets with Johnny Saint and Joe and Marty Jones at ringside. Dan Garcia enters the ring and he hugs Nigel McGuinness while Tony Schiavone enters the ring for a special announcement. Nigel McGuinness and Daniel Garcia then leave the ring as we get the announcement that 18,992 fans are in the O2 for Forbidden Door, breaking the record for a wrestling show in the building. Alright, we head to the back where Queen Emnada and the Kala, who brought to the back during their match on the 0 Hour pre-show, bringing their fight back to ringside. Emnada is then Blindside by Sky Blue and Julia Hart, and the Triangle of Madness look to attack Emnada and Emnada some more until Jamie Hayter makes her return for the save. Triangle of Madness then runs off as Jamie Hayter checks on Emnada, raising her arm to a huge pop from the crowd. Alright, we then get a video package looking at the AEW World Tag Team Champion 3-way Tag Team Elimination match. FTR then makes their way down to the ring for our next match of the pay-per-view, and Bandito and the Hurt Syndicate follows. So we get the AEW World Tag Team Championship 3-way Tag Team AEW World Tag Team Championship 3-way Tag Team Eliminator match. The Hurt Syndicate, the Almighty Bobby Lashley, and the Standard of Excellence Shelton Benjamin versus Bandito, House of Hell's Brody King, and Ring of Honor World Champion Bandito versus FTR, Couch Wheeler, and Dax Harwood. And this 3-way tag team match, this was good. This was a good match right here. The match starts off with FTR going after Lashley and Bandito attacking Benjamin. The match then spills to the outside, and Lashley fans off FTR, and Benjamin fights back against Bandito and Brody King. But things turn back in favor of the challengers as Bobby Lashley gets sits into the ring steps, while Benjamin takes a hurricanrana to the floor by Bandito. Bandito and Harwood then enter the ring, and Harwood is hit with a head scissors by Bandito for a near fall. Harwood then fights back for a chop in a double team ring alongside Wheeler before Lashley tags himself in for a double clothesline on FTR. Bobby Lashley then hits a delayed vertical suplex on Harwood before tagging in Benjamin for more damage. Harwood tags to Bandito to save himself, and Bandito sends Lashley through the ropes for a dive to the outside. Benjamin then comes back in and takes Bandito down hard before the tag is made to Lashley, who drops Bandito for a near fall. Before Wheeler breaks it up, Benjamin then sends Bandito out of the ring off the tag. Lashley then comes back in to stay on the attack with the boot on the neck of Bandito before tagging Benjamin back in. Bandito then fights back with a third kick before looking for a tag out, but FTR drops to the floor to avoid the tag, with Brody King still down on the floor. Lashley then goes for a hurt lock, but Bandito breaks free as Brody King makes it back to the apron. A tag then made to Benjamin, who keeps Bandito isolated, but he gets taken down, allowed for a tag to Brody King. Brody King then hits anyone that moves in the ring, as Harwood sneaks a tag. It sneaks a tag in, only to be dropped by Brody King for a near fall. He then sends Harwood to Wheeler in the corner, but Benjamin intervenes and he is sent to the corner by Brody King. Brody King then hits a cannonball on FTR. He then looks over at Shelton Benjamin and Lashley enters the ring as a brawl begins. Both men then go back and forth until Lashley drops Brody King and Brody King gets back to his feet. Brody King then sends Bobby Lashley over the top rope onto the outside. Benjamin then catches him before taking out Wheeler and Bandito and dodges an attack of Brody King for a set of German suplexes. Shelton Benjamin then gets hosted up by Brody King. Wheeler takes advantage by hitting a shatter machine on Benjamin. Wheeler then managed to keep Bobby Lashley out of the ring before Brody King sends him out as well, and the Hurt Syndicate catches him in the arms just as Brody King hits a dive on all three men. Bandito then gets back in the ring and grabs Harwood and then sets him up on the turnbuckles for a slam, sending both men onto the pile. The Hurt Syndicate are back on their feet and they lay out their challenges before sending Brody King back in the ring. They then hit a step up knee strike and follow it up with a spear on Harwood, and both men are in. New Japan Pro Wrestling hoodie takes Lashley out of the equation as Harwood gets a near fall. The hoodie man then continues helping Bobby Lashley isolated as Harwood hits a nasty chair shot on Brody King, and the hooded men reveal themselves as Ricochet, GOA, and Harwood gets a near fall. Ricochet and GOA take their leave as FTR are fended off of their turnbuckles, leading to Bandito get a close near fall. A slight slip, Bandito gets a right hand on top for the win. The winner of the three-way tag team elimination match and new AEW Tag Team Champions Bandito, House of Hell, Brody King, and Ring of Honor World Champion Bandito. This was a good match. After the match, Bandito celebrated their win as the crowd gives them a show of respect. We then get a video package looking at the AEW Unified Championship match. Jim Ross makes his way down to the ring and joins the commentary desk. Swerve Strickland then makes his way down to the ring of the next match of the pay-per-view. Kazuchika Okada follows. So we get the AEW Unified Championship match. Don Callis family, the Rainmaker Kazuchika Okada versus Swerve Strickland. And this match right here, this match was fantastic. This match was fantastic. The match starts off with Swerve Strickland going right on the attack, but Okada fights back to get the upper hand. Swerve Strickland then turns it back for another suplex, and the action spills to the outside. Swerve Strickland then hits a running knee on the apron, and that sends Okada to the floor. Okada then hits a big dive on Okada. Swerve Strickland then sends Okada back in the ring. Swerve Strickland then hits Okada with two neck breakers to keep Okada on the mat for a moment. Swerve Strickland then sends Okada to the corner before hitting him with the springboard uppercut. Swerve Strickland then brings Okada to his feet, but Okada hits Swerve Strickland with a catapult, then sends Swerve Strickland through the ropes and to the outside. Swerve Strickland is back on his feet, but he takes a baseball slide from Okada, and Okada breaks the referee count to stay on the attack before Swerve Strickland fights back. Okada then sends Okada into the ring steps. Swerve Strickland then sends Okada onto the apron at the count of 8 before breaking the count. Just set up for a power drop onto the steps. That is then countered with a DDT by Okada, and he sent Swerve Strickland head first into the steps and down to the floor. He then gives Okada even more of an opening now as he brings Swerve Strickland back in the ring. Okada then hits a hammer throw to the corner, and Swerve Strickland drops to the mat. Swerve Strickland then slowly gets to his feet as both men trade strikes. Swerve Strickland then hits a rolling flatliner, then followed it up with a suplex that takes Okada down to the canvas. Swerve Strickland then brings Okada to the corner, but Okada fights back until Okada sends him down for a avalanche back suplex and the cover on the cover, and Okada managed to kick out. Okada then escapes to the outside as Swerve Strickland follows him, only to be caught with a tombstone pile driver onto the floor. Okada then sends Swerve Strickland back into the ring for a scoop slam before going up top in an elbow drop. Okada then sets up for a Rainmaker lariat, but Swerve Strickland dodges it and he gets taken down with the other lariat. The Rainmaker is then countered with a house call, and Okada is down to the mat. Swerve Strickland then hits a lariat of his own twice. Swerve Strickland then sets up for another house call, but takes a drop kick instead. Okada then hits a second one. Only for Swerve Strickland hits a powerbomb on Okada. Swerve Strickland then goes up top and he hits a swerve stomp on Okada. Swerve Strickland then goes for the cover, but Okada kicks out. Okada then goes to the apron and Swerve Strickland heads to the corner. Both men then go at it on the turnbuckle before Okada traps Swerve Strickland by his leg. Swerve Strickland then managed to get back to a good position, but this gives Okada an opening for a knee breaker onto the top turnbuckle. Swerve Strickland then lands on the apron before rolling back in the ring. Swerve Strickland is back up, but Okada dodges a house call and a big pressure before Swerve Strickland hits a house call on the head of Okada. Okada then evades a house call and hits Swerve Strickland with the Rainmaker lariat for the win. The winner and still the AEW Unified Champion, Don Callis family, the Rainmaker, Kazuchika Okada. This was a good fantastic match for what it was. After the match, Okada pulls Swerve Strickland to the corner to trap his leg between the ring steps. Okada then grabs a chair and slams it on the knee of Swerve Strickland, but Prince Nana comes running down for the save. Okada then regroups with Don Callis on the ramp as the crowd chants Okada is a you-know-what. Back in the ring, Warlow makes his way down to the ring and attacks Prince Nana. Security then rushes down to hold Warlow back as Swerve Strickland stares him down. Warlow then attacks the security detail in response. Swerve Strickland then looks to be hurt bad and Warlow hits a powerbomb on one of the security guards before taking his leave from the ring. Officials then check on Swerve Strickland as Warlow meets with the Don Callis family. Kazuchika Dekeshka music then hits as he stares the newest member down from the moment before seemingly approving Warlow's entry. Alright, we then get a video package looking at the AEW Women's World Championship match. Athena then makes her way down to the ring for the next match of the pay-per-view. Timeless Toni Storm follows. So we get the AEW Women's World Championship match. Timeless Toni Storm versus Ring of Honor Women's World Champion, the Fallen Goddess Athena. And this match right here, this was pretty good. Pretty good match right here. The match starts off with Toni Storm getting the upper hand on Athena, and Toni Storm sends Athena to the outside before taking Bayley Starks out of the match with a Storm Zero. Athena then sends Storm into the barricade. Athena then sends Toni Storm back into the ring for a thirst kick and a near fall. Athena then stays on the attack for another 2 count and then sends Toni Storm to the corner before dragging her along the ropes for more damage. The attack then continues as Athena brings Toni Storm to the opposite side where she slams Toni Storm's head into the ring post. Toni Storm then tries to fight back, but Athena stays on top of things before bringing Toni Storm to the ropes. Athena then threatens to take Toni Storm's head off, but Toni Storm gets out of the way and rolls her up for a 2 count. Toni Storm then gets sent to the corner as Athena looks for a hip attack. Tony Storm then hits Athena with a clothesline and follows it up with a fisherman suplex. On timeless, Tony Storm gets a 2 count. Athena then fights out of a Storm Zero attempt, and she takes Tony Storm right back down. Tony Storm then hits a powerbomb on Athena for a 2 count of her own. Tony Storm then goes for a TCM chicken wing, but it gets countered and Tony Storm hits a tornado DDT and a tiger bomb on Athena for a near fall. Both women are on their feet and they both exchange strikes. Tony Storm then hits some overhead chops that wears Athena down before Athena hits Tony Storm with a thirst kick and a palm strike for a 2 count. Tony Storm then fights out of a powerbomb attempt to head to the corner, but a distraction from Stars allows Athena to hit a kick. Tony Storm then hits a hurricanrana, but Athena lands on her feet and follows it up with a tiger bomb for a 2 count. Athena then traps Tony Storm in a submission hold. Tony Storm then gets her foot on the ropes for a break as Athena backs away. Tony Storm then looks for the TCM chicken wing, but she is sent through the ropes and lands on the floor as Athena hits a big dive. She then sends Tony Storm to the ring steps and looks for a power driver, but Tony Storm breaks free to pull her down onto the steps. Tony Storm then slams Athena into the barricade and she brings Athena back into the ring. Tony Storm then hits a headbutt and Storm Zero for a 2 count. Athena then looks for help from Starks and Starks pulls the apron cover. Tony Storm then fights back but nearly gets tripped by Starks, who points out she didn't actually touch Tony Storm, and this allows Athena to hit an old face that sends Tony Storm onto the top rope. Tony Storm is laying on the apron as always, and Starks looks to use a chair, but Shakara pulls it away and brings that to a stop. Athena then goes back after Tony Storm, who gets a big package on Athena, but that gets countered for a 2 count. Both women are back up, and Tony Storm changes in the TMC chicken wing on Athena, and Athena has no choice but to tap out. The winner and still your AEW Women's World Champion, Timeless Tony Storm. This match was fantastic for what it was. After the match, Tony Storm celebrates on the ramp with her title. We then get a video package looking at the AEW World Championship match. MJF then makes his way down to the ring for the next pay-per-view, and Hangman Adam Page follows. So we get the AEW World Championship match. If Page is counted out or disqualified, he will lose his title. Hangman Adam Page versus C-Mill World Light Heavyweight Champion MJF. And this match right here, I ain't even gonna lie to you, this match was fantastic. Alright, the match starts off with MJF squaring off with Page, but immediately backs up to the ropes. MJF then continues to try to tease Page by ducking in and out of action, and Page has had enough as he lays into MJF in the corner. The referee then has to pull Page back and reminds Page that a DQ will mean he loses the title. MJF then escapes the ring, but is quickly followed by Page, who sends MJF into the barricade before going into the ring to break the count. The crowd then chants one more time, and Page of Bliss sends MJF into the guardrail one more time before breaking the count. MJF then gets back to the ringside, and area is sent to the ring by Page, who hits a back suplex before MJF rolls to the floor. Hangman Page then leaves to get some more damage done, but starts to grab a chair before the referee equipment him once again. This then gives MJF an opening to strike, sending Page back in the ring to hit some shots. MJF then follows it up with a chin lock. Page then fights back to his feet before MJF drops him back down by his hair. MJF then brings Page back to his feet, only to take some shots from Page. MJF then responds with a thumb to the eye. Page then fights back until MJF turns it around with a pile driver, but that only gets him a 2 count. MJF then hits a hammer throw that sends Page into the corner. Hangman Page then gets back into it and sends MJF to the corner before running attack gets dropped. MJF then hits a double stomp onto the arm of Hangman Page, and MJF goes for an armbar. Page then forces MJF to change things up, and MJF draws Page to the mat instead. The action then heads to the turnbuckle where MJF takes a bit out of Page before mocking him. Page then returns to the favor before dropping MJF to the canvas. Page then hits a fallaway slam and sends MJF to the ropes. MJF then tries to take a breather on the floor, but then gets caught with a moonsault from Page instead. Page then sends MJF down hard. Page then sends MJF back to the ring for a pop-up powerbomb, but only gets a 2 count. Page then looks for a buckshot lariat, but MJF drops to the ropes to evade it, and he looks for a heat seeker. Page then blocks it and goes for a buckshot lariat, but it gets countered into a salt of the earth. Page then traps in the moves and he scrambles towards the ropes before MJF pulls him back. He then gets pinned and hits shoulders for a 2 count. Page then looks for a crossface, but MJF gets him on his shoulders for a near fall. That breaks the hold. MJF then looks for a heat seeker, but it's blocked, and the buckshot lariat is countered with a cutter. MJF then follows it up with a guillotine hammer DDT for a 2 count. MJF then leaves the ring and brings a table to the other side of the ring. MJF then places Page on the table before climbing the turnbuckle. Page then intercepts MJF. MJF then sends Page away, but is caught with a moonsault off the apron. Page then follows it up with the tombstone piledriver that sends MJF to the floor. Page then sends MJF to the ring before grabbing the table and he sets it up closer to the ring. And MJF then tries to fight back, but Page hits him with a dead eye through the table. Page then sends MJF back into the ring and goes for the cover, but MJF gets a boot on the rope to break the pin. Page then looks for a buckshot lariat before MJF slides out of the ring to gather himself on a chair and near the barricade. Page then gets to the floor and runs towards MJF, who hits him with a drop toe hold onto the chair. MJF then slides into the ring as the referee confirms whether the chair attack was an accident. MJF claims is the case as he leaves the ring to go back after Page. MJF then sends Page into the ring steps before taking the trash to Bryan Danielson at the commentary desk. MJF then goes back after Page and sets him up for a tombstone piledriver that he targets one and half of the broken table. And MJF then rolls into the ring and calls for the referee to start the count. The count is up to 8 when Page starts to get up, but he falls back down. The referee then reaches 9, but Page gets back in the ring just in the nick of time. The referee then checks on Page as MJF pulls the turnbuckle cover off, looking to send Page into it, but it gets turned around on MJF as his face meets the exposed turnbuckle. Instead, Page then backs off the corner, and as we see MJF's busted open. MJF then gets to his feet, as does Page, and both men stare each other down before walking to the center of the ring. Both men trade strikes back and forth, with Page seemingly having the upper hand, and they both drop to the mat. Page is up first, and he looks for a tombstone power driver that gets countered, and this leads to an exchange of near falls. Both men then gets up, and Page hits a dead eye on MJF. Page then goes for a cover, but MJF kicks out. Page then gets back to his feet as MJF tries to beg him off before pulling out the diamond ring. Page then grabs the ring from MJF, wondering whether he should use it, but instead just spits in MJF's face. A buckshot lariat attempt is then dodges before MJF shoves Page into the referee. MJF then hits the heat seeker on Page and Page goes for a cover, but Page gets his boot on the bottom rope, and the referee doesn't see it as he makes the 3 count. The bell hasn't rung yet, as the referee is struggling, and MJF tries to tell him to call for the bell. Mark Briscoe then makes his way down and looks for revenge on MJF. Security then pulls Mark Briscoe away from MJF and notice that Page's foot is still on the bottom rope. MJF then goes to pull the referee off, pull the boot off when the referee finally notices it, telling MJF that the match continues. Page then sets up for a buckshot lariat and hits it, but it's only good for a 2 count. MJF then leaves the ring, and he grabs his female title and the contract. The referee then notices the title and pulls it away, but the distraction allows MJF to hit a shot with the contract on the head of Page. MJF then goes for the cover, but Page kicks out. MJF then pulls the ring back out of his trunks, but he gets caught by the referee, and as the referee takes it away, Page manages to hit MJF contract over the head before hitting the dead eye and the buckshot lariat on MJF for the win. The winner and still your AEW World Heavyweight Champion, Hangman Adam Page. This match was fantastic. After the match, Hangman Page drops the contract on the chest of MJF before celebrating with his title up the ramp. AEW then announces a couple of TV taping in the UK for December, with Collision taking place on Cardiff on the 13th, and Dynamite taking place in Manchester on the 17th. Alright, let's move on. We then get a video package looking at the Lights Out Steel Cage match. Justin Roberts then announces that the lights will be turned out, and AEW will not be responsible for what takes place once they are turned on again. The steel cage is then lowered to the floor. Darby Allin then makes his way down to the ring for the main event of the pay-per-view, and Hiroshi Tanahashi, Kota Ibushi, Kenny Omega, and Will Ospreay follow, with a video package of Alex Winslow narrating. The Young Bucks then make their way down to the ring for the main event of the pay-per-view, and the Death Riders and Gabe Kidd follows. So we get the main event of the evening. Ooh, I was so ready for this main event. Lights Out Steel Cage match. Golden Lover, the Best Bout Machine, Kenny Omega, and the Golden Star, Kota Ibushi, Darby Allin, Hiroshi Tanahashi, and the Real Assassin, Will Ospreay, versus the Death Riders, Claudio Castagnoli and Jon Moxley, the Young Bucks, Matthew Johnson and Nick Jackson, and the Bullet Club War Dogs, Gabe Kidd. This match was fantastic, brutal, and physical and chaotic at the same time. This main event was the best match of the night right here. The match starts off with Darby Allin going after Gabe Kidd, and Gabe Kidd goes after Will Ospreay. The Young Bucks then go after Hiroshi Tanahashi, but Tanahashi defends them, and Claudio Castagnoli off before Gabe Kidd cuts him off from celebrating. Will Ospreay then gets in the ring and he goes after Gabe Kidd. Will Ospreay then sends Gabe Kidd away before hitting a Sasuke special over the ropes. The Young Bucks then go after the Golden Lover before they get taken down with a couple of hurricanranas by Kenny Omega and Ibushi. Kenny Omega and Ibushi then sends the Young Bucks out of the ring before they hit Matt and Nick Jackson with a couple of dives. Those are a mouthful of words that I just said, but let me continue. John Moxley and Darby Allin then returned to the ring, and it seems that they've been handcuffed together. It gets broken until after Darby Allin hits a cold red on Castagnoli, who tries to intervene as they leave the ring. We see the Young Bucks and Golden Lover getting back into it. The Young Bucks then takes Ibushi down with a slice spread. Nick then leaves the ring to grab a bag from underneath, thinking he's got a bunch of thumbtacks, but it's a pile of gummy bears instead. John Moxley and Castagnoli then enter the ring, but Will Ospreay takes John Moxley down from the turnbuckle. Kenny Omega then tries to drop the Toho on Matt onto the gummy bears, but to no avail, and Tanahashi hits a bulldog, sending Matt face first into the gummy bears. Matt then gets spiked on the canvas as well before Kenny Omega brings him to his feet to stuff a bunch of candies into Matt Jackson's mouth. This then leads to a near fall attempt by Kenny Omega before Matt Jackson kicks out and the Young Bucks regain control. That sends the Golden Lovers out before going after Darby Allin in the ring. Nick Jackson then goes after Will Ospreay on the outside and sends him back in the ring. And he and Matt Jackson trade strikes on Will Ospreay. The Young Bucks then brings out the ladder from under the ring, only for Will Ospreay to dodge it before hitting them in the face with it off the backflip leg strike. He then goes after John Moxley, wrapping a chair around his neck, but Gabe Kidd makes the save and hits a stalling pile driver. Gabe Kidd is intercepted by Kenny Omega, and both men go at it on the apron before Gabe Kidd sets Kenny Omega up with a stump pile driver combo before the Young Bucks right back into a giant swing by Castagnoli. Gabe Kidd then hits a drop kick, and Castagnoli hits a catapult into an attack from the Young Bucks for a 2 count. Ibushi then gets in the ring and goes after the Young Bucks, who eventually takes him out with a double super kick. The Young Bucks then hit a TK driver on Ibushi, but only gets a 2 count before Darby Allin breaks it up. The Death Riders and Gabe Kidd then go after Darby Allin, and Claudio Castagnoli picks him up to send him into the side of the cage and down to the floor. They then turn their attention to Tanahashi, who fends off his opponents before John Moxley hits a hard DDT on Tanahashi. They then grab Darby Allin and sets him up on a chair before wrapping duct tape around him to keep him bound. John Moxley then grabs a fork and goes after the ear of Darby Allin, busts it open in the process. Now, that was a brutal spot. They then split back up to go after their opponents at ringside. We then get another shot of Darby Allin's ear when suddenly we see a table with barbed wire pulled out from under the ring. They then set up a double stack of tables. Darby Allin then fights back while back in the ring. The barbed wire table is set up against the corner. Tanahashi then catches John Moxley before sending his head into the barbed wire. The Young Bucks get involved and hit a TK driver on Tanahashi for a 2 count before Will Ospreay breaks it up. Will Ospreay then covers Tanahashi and himself up as the Death Rider starts to target his neck. John Moxley then pulls Will Ospreay away, looking for a Paragon shift, but instead, Will Ospreay spears him through the barbed wire table in the corner. Kenny Omega is back on his feet and he hits several Snapdragon suplexes. John Moxley then looks for a Paragon shield, but Kenny Omega blocks it. Ibushi then blocks an attack from Nick, and the Golden Lovers hit Snapdragon suplexes in stereo. And the Young Bucks are the Young Bucks are then sent to the outside, and Ibushi hits a dive. Kenny Omega then hits a dive onto the Death Riders. Tanahashi then makes his way to his feet, and he sees a ladder, and climbs it as he looks to goes to the top of the cage. Ospreay then convinces him not to do it. Instead, he climbs the side of the cage for a moonsault off the top and drops on the pile of bodies below. Gabe Kidd and Kenny Omega then trade strikes back and forth while Gabe Kidd mobs Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega then fights back with some chops, only for Gabe Kidd to fight back. Kenny Omega then hits a knee, but Gabe Kidd gets out of the way so the Young Bucks can go after Kenny Omega. Tanahashi then comes in and hits a dragon screw on both men before Katsunori cuts him off, only to get dropped by Ibushi. John Moxley then hits a cutter on Ibushi, but Darby Allin hits him with a Scorpion Death Drop before Will Ospreay runs in with the hidden blade on the Young Bucks. Gabe Kidd then goes after Will Ospreay, but Will Ospreay responds with a Styles Clash, and it follows by the V trigger and the hidden blade combo. Kenny Omega then goes for the cover, but gets broken up. The action then spills to the apron where Ibushi gets dropped, but Will Ospreay hits an Oz cutter on Nick while the ring clears aside from John Moxley and Kenny Omega. Both men can seem to knock each other down with their clothesline, but Kenny Omega gets John Moxley to the ropes for a V trigger. He then hits a one-winged angel on and goes for the cover, but it gets broken up at 2. John Moxley then escapes the ring, climbing up the side of for an assist from Wheeler Yuta and until Darby Allin intercepts. Then he goes after Wheeler Yuta on the top of the cage before sending Wheeler Yuta on the Japanese announcer desk. He then goes after John Moxley on the outside, eventually catching him and placing him on the table sack. Darby Allin then looks for a coffin drop off the top of the cage, but Maurice Sheffield pulls John Moxley off the table. Gabe Kidd blindsides Darby Allin. Gabe Kidd then looks for a sleeper hold on Darby Allin, who pulls his nose to stop him, just long enough to send both men crashing through the table sack. We then see Claudio Castagnoli and Ibushi going at it with strikes before Ibushi hits a half and half suplex. Kenny Omega then hits a V trigger, and Will Ospreay hits a Stormbreaker. The Young Bucks then intervene, but Nick takes a golden trigger and Matt Jackson takes a hidden blade, followed by a one-winged angle. Tanahashi then goes up top for a high fly flow and gets the win. The winners of the Lights Out Steel Cage match, the Golden Lovers, the Best Bout Machine, Kenny Omega, the Golden Star, Kota Ibushi, Darby Allin, Hiroshi Tanahashi, and the Aerial Assassin Will Ospreay. This match was fantastic. This match was the match of the night right here. It was fun, chaotic, cinema, and brutal at the same time, and it was physical at the same time. Alright, after the match, the ring is cleared out as the babyface stand tall except Darby Allin. Maddox then check on Darby Allin and Gabe Kidd on the outside as commentary thanks the fans for tuning in. With the Tanahashi music counter to play, Kenny Omega and Ibushi then helps Darby Allin walk to the ring, where they shake hands with Will Ospreay. They all then shake hands before everyone aside from Will Ospreay leaves the ring, allowing Will Ospreay to take the hit. He takes in the audition from the hometown crowd. Will Ospreay then shows his appreciation for the fans as his music and the Death Riders blindsides Will Ospreay. They then bring Will Ospreay into the ring, where John Moxley hits a series of Paragon Ship DDTs on Will Ospreay, and Will Ospreay teammates are kept locked outside the cage. They then wrap a chair around the neck of Will Ospreay as the Ops rush down the ramp to try to make the save, but the cage is still locked too much. It's still too much of a hurdle that gets past, It allows the Death Riders to drop him onto the chair, causing even more damage to the neck of Will Ospreay. They then take their exit as we hear the Dodge and Samoa Joe. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, after I get done. And Samoa Joe demanding the cage to get right. Shut the door. Thank you. And Samoa Joe demanded the cage to get right, and it finally does as they rush in to check on Will Ospreay, while the Death Riders and the Young Bucks escape through the crowd. The doctors then calls for the medics for Predicure Pro Cador, and Kenny Omega yells at the referee about not doing something sooner as the show comes to a close. And an AEW Forbidden Door goes off the air. Alright, let me get, if you guys enjoy my AEW Forbidden Door review and highlights, make sure you guys please watch the video from the beginning to the end. Hit that like button, subscribe to my channel for more wrestling content I do on the channel. Follow my social media down below in the description. And go check out my WWE SmackDown review and highlights, man. But like I said earlier, now AEW Forbidden Door was a good show for what it was. And the match card looked good by itself. I want you guys to have a great night. Stay safe and always stay positive. Kept your crew, kept your kings, kept your club. Too sweet. I'm out of here. Gang. Mwah. Bang. Too sweet. Gang. And I will see you guys next on my WWE NXT Heatwave review and highlights. Stay too sweet. And I'm out of here. Gang.